Do you struggle to lose weight despite trying everything to diet hard and exercise? Well, what if the issue actually lies within your ability to regulate your nervous system? I'm Dana Lynn, I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm going to be doing a couple videos on just less talked about ways to lose weight and keep it off. And today's video is about the nervous system. So, our nervous system has three states to it. So, when we are safe, we are in what we call rest and digest. So that's when everything's going nice and smooth. We're just relaxed, we're restoring. Then we have our fight and flight state. So this is when there is an imminent threat. It's life or death situation. We're maybe going to get eaten by a tiger or something like that, because this all came about when we used to live on the land. And we're just in survival mode, right? So that's another state. And then there's a third kind of less known state called the dorsal state. And this is where if we lost the fight, we didn't run fast enough, and we were like gonna get eaten or, a limb, whatever, bitten, our body goes into this kind of shutdown state and it numbs so that we don't feel the pain of it, right? So these are the three states of the nervous system. So we should be in rest and digest, like, honestly, all the time because there are no more tigers chasing us for most of us. So when we're in rest and digest, our prefrontal cortex area of our brain is working good. And this is where we're really great at planning. So we're good at meal planning and figuring out, how to kind of manage our day. We're really good at making good, healthy choices. We have more willpower, so we're less likely to indulge on those less healthy foods. We're better at regulating our emotions, so we're not so much emotional eating, right? So when we're in rest and digest, it is so much easier to follow through with those diet plans, the exercise plans that we have made. Now, the problem that's happening is we now live in this state where, because of our lifestyle, because of the way society is set up, we're kind of really stressed out all the time. We don't feel safe, and it's not from tigers. It's because, like, are we going to have enough money? Am I going to lose my job? Are my kids doing okay? Is my relationship okay? And we have all these life stressors, the state of the world, watching the news, all these things. Are really overwhelming us, and we just have so many responsibilities and so many emails, and there's so much going on, right? So it's gotten to a point where we're in fight or flight a lot because of all those stressors. And how that's affecting our health, well, let's think about it, right? So when we're in fight or flight, what's happening is our prefrontal cortex no longer is activated. So we're no longer using that logical part of our brain, and we just go into survival mode where all we can think about is how to get through that moment. So we're not thinking about, like, let me plan my meals and eat my salads so I can live to 100. We're like, I just need something, and so let's just drive through. Or, the first thing to go with our overwhelm and demanding schedules is like, I don't have time to exercise. I can't go to bed. I have too much to do, right? So we don't get the sleep we need. We're not moving our bodies. All these beautiful routines that we had set up to do, like doing the meal planning and cooking and taking care of ourselves, all of those things kind of fall away. And here all of a sudden we're like back into our old patterns, right? And on top of that, what's happening when we're in that stressed out state is our body's producing our stress hormone, cortisol, and cortisol actually promotes body fat. So it makes it so much harder to lose weight, especially around like the abdomen area. So if you find that you're gaining a lot of weight in that area, it's, could be that cortisol is at play there. Plus, then we're not getting enough sleep, and then that produces more of a hormone called ghrelin, which makes us more hungry and overeat. And all this to say, it's not that there's something wrong with you. It's not that you're a failure. It's that something needs to shift to help regulate that nervous system. It's really interesting. There was a study done in 2015 where they did it on women, and they asked them, like, what were your stress levels like in the last 24 hours, right? And so then they all gave the women, this is kind of a high fat, high calorie meal, and afterward they measured their metabolic rate, meaning like how fast did they burn through the calories, their blood sugar, their cholesterol, their insulin, cortisol levels, all these things. And they found that the women who had had a stressor in the last 24 hours, they burned less less than 100 calories fewer than those who were not stressed, which can be significant. Plus, they noticed they had higher insulin levels, which, if you guys watch my blood sugar videos, we kind of talk about why that is. And higher insulin does contribute to more fat storage. So, all these things are like working against you, right? So, again, it's not your fault. It's just about managing our stress levels, which is so hard. Um, and I think what's really interesting is it's so chronic that we're in this kind of state of survival mode that a lot of us don't even realize we're living here all the time, or at least a lot. So it's interesting how often I see patients in my office and, I'm like, how's your stress? And they're all like, oh, it's fine. I'm not that stressed. And then we start getting into it and it's like, holy moly, they have so many stressors going on. And it's so everyday that we have no idea. So, what I want to share with you are just some kind of signs to look out for that you are in fight or flight. So maybe you are more forgetful, you're having trouble concentrating more. You get really easily irritated, and every little thing sets you off. You get angered really easily, especially as parents. You might be snapping at your kids more, or you're snapping at your significant other more. You're just more irritated, right? Maybe your heart rate's up. You might have a lot of stomach issues, tension in the shoulders. So these are all some things to look out for. And then there's that whole dorsal state. So even though that used to only happen if we were like getting attacked, we are now finding that people are really going into this dorsal state often. And this is where you have that, like, you're so overwhelmed, you go into analysis paralysis, and it's like you just freeze and you don't do anything because it's just like you don't even know where to begin. We're so overwhelmed. Maybe you just go take a nap. So these are all things to look for. These are all signs that you are in fight or flight or that dorsal state. So if these sound familiar, it's definitely a warning sign that something needs to happen to help regulate your nervous system. And if you're noticing that this is happening like all the time and you're always in this state, then it might take more intensive treatment than what I'm about to share. So that's where you'd want to like look into that more. But here's what you want to do when you notice you're in that fight or flight state. Our job first is to bring us back down into rest and digest. So there's a few ways to do this. First of all, we need to release that energy. So go for a walk, go for a run if you can. Shake it off, put on some music and dance, do something to like get rid of that energy. Scream if you are in a place that you can do that, because that's really releasing a lot of energy. Maybe go outside and just get some fresh air and do some breathing exercises. There's a lot. There's like box breathing, alternate nostril breathing. There's a lot of different breathing techniques to help bring your nervous system back into a calm state. There's also a lot of research now about our vagus nerve, which is a nerve that, like, it goes pretty long, but it's very related to our nervous system. So there are things you can do to stimulate the vagus nerve that's going to help bring you back into rest and digest. You can look these up, but it's things like singing and gargling, and there's a lot of cool stuff you can do to stimulate that vagus nerve that is pretty easy to do. Whatever you, all these things can help bring you back into rest and digest. Now, once you get back into that rest and digest state, now we have to figure out like what just caused this and how do I prevent this from happening again. So pay attention. Maybe that means stop watching the news. None of us need to be watching the news. Stop saying yes to everything. Stop putting so much stuff on your plate. Really watch your caffeine and alcohol intake, because those are like major triggers. Um, Watch how much time you're spending scrolling on social media. All of these things we know increase stress levels. So, first pay attention to kind of what's causing it, right? And then there's going to be a lot of stressors that we have no control over. So, for those things, that's where it's going to come down to having daily practices that are going to like preemptively relax our nervous system. So, these are things like meditating and walking and spending time in nature, grounding, which is like putting your feet on the earth, actually like barefoot into the earth, the grass, the dirt, whatever. There's a lot of research around it. You can look it up if you think this sounds super crazy. But if you are just like grounding on the earth, like I'm doing right now, that can really help bring down your nervous system. Eating well is important as well, doing those vagal nerve exercises, calming music, Binaural beats are really great. If you want to look those up on YouTube, there's some really beautiful binaural beats for calming the nervous system. So, lots of things you can do, and you really want to be focusing on like implementing some of these every day. You certainly don't have to do all of them by any means, but it's that constant practice of bringing the nervous system back down. When it's back down, it's not as easy to go up. Whereas if we're already up, like everything sets us off, right? So we really want to bring it down on a daily basis. So that's kind of the goal, recognizing when you're there, getting out of it in the moment, and then doing those daily activities to prevent it in the future. So I hope that this is helpful to you. If you want to kind of work with me more one on one with these things, you can go to danalynnwellness.com and look into my program called The Key. Um, Share this with someone that you think would appreciate it and like it. That helps to spread it to more people. And definitely subscribe if you'd like more stuff like this. All right, take care. Go get outside, get in nature. Bye.